look, guys, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with the basketball gods, but they're angry, they're mad, and now I'm mad because, Jesus Christ. The worst thing about the NBA, look, we can talk all we want about, damn, I hate Kevin Durant for going to Golden State. The Warriors ruined the NBA, blah, blah. Like, I could complain about that, and I do complain about that. And I think that I can rightfully complain about that. But there's nothing worse in the NBA, in sports, than injuries. Injuries will always be NBA hell, or just hell in general in terms of sports. If you get hurt, severely hurt, that is a bigger blow than basically anything else that can happen, because especially if it's a player of importance, it affects a ton of people. It can ruin a team's chances at winning a championship, winning games, winning a playoff series. It can ruin everything. Just one little injury, one moment, I should say, one misstep can ruin your injury and even your career, because if you get an ACL injury, if you get an Achilles injury, even worse, an Achilles injury, these things can affect you in the long term. And unfortunately for some guys, like Derrick Rose, like Brandon Roy, players like that, we saw the best of them at the beginning of their careers when they were healthy, and after they started dealing with injury issues, we never saw them advance into the primes of their careers, and instead, they had shortened careers. And I know Derrick Rose is still playing, but we all know that this guy could be so much more if those injuries hadn't happened. And it's just such a sad thing. And I'm not saying that from anything lately we're going to have repercussions like that, but you really never know. An Achilles injury like the one that happened with Demarcus Cousins yesterday, it's one of the worst injuries you can get. Some people say it's a 2-year injury. You can be back the next year. However, it's really going to take another extra year to fully recover and get back to your old self, which is never good news for anybody. It's essentially the injury that ruined Kobe Bryant's career, or at least shortened it, because he was never really the same player after he tore his Achilles. Now, DeMarcus Cousins is the only guy injured. I mean, DeMarcus Cousins got injured, and that was it for me. I was pissed. As a fan of the general NBA, it's a horrible injury, horribly inconvenient. But, I mean, really, in the past 24 hours, Mike Conley is out for the season. Even though Mike Conley hasn't played, I mean, that might even make it worse. The Grizzlies going into the season, they're always a team with a chance to be, I guess, like a 4, 5 through 8 seed in the Western Conference at the end of the season. They've always made the playoffs every year for the last, 5 or 6 years, I believe. I think they've made it consecutively for a very long time, and they've always been a threat. Never really a championship team, but they've been consistently good. And Mike Conley being out with injury has completely derailed their season, and now we're finding out that he's out for this season. And Mike Conley's like one of my favorite players. He's a class act. He's one of the guys that doesn't deserve to be injured because he's such a team player. He's never getting mixed up in any bad business. He's just so criminally underrated from a career standpoint, and just in general as well. And he's just the last guy that you wish something like this on. As if anybody would wish an injury on someone. I know there are some messed up people out there, and people that think that I might wish an injury on Kevin Durant. I wouldn't. I don't wish injuries on anybody, because, like I said, we can complain about an imbalance in the NBA or just an issue in the NBA. For me, that's Kevin Durant, but there's nothing worse than injuries. It doesn't matter who it is. You don't want to see someone do that. At least I'd hope that, your average NBA fan isn't wishing injuries on players because he just doesn't like them or something like that. It's not that serious. Now, another terrible thing happened with Andre Robertson. And if you've seen that video, which, by the way, was awful, that looked horrible. The Andre Robertson video looked awful, and they're saying that he ruptured his patella tendon. I think that's what they were saying, and he's going to get season-ending surgery. But that's not confirmed, but that's like the expectation, which probably means like 80% chance that that's the truth. It's another key player. Look, Andre Robertson, obviously he has his struggles. He's not a very strong offensive threat. However, he is an elite defensive presence. He is the best defensive player on the Oklahoma City Thunder, and that's the side of the ball that they need help with. Their offensive game, look, these guys, they're starting to figure it out. They got some superstar scoring players. They don't need more offense, but on defense, that's an area where he is such a key part of their system, yet unfortunately, it looks like he's going to be gone for the rest of the season. It's just awful to see stuff like that. But Boogie Cousins is the main thing I want to talk about in this video, because he is by far the most important player out of these three, not only in terms of his value to his team, but just like this injury hurts, it stings so much more, because if you look at how these Pelicans are playing these days, look, they've been a middle of the pack team for a while, but they just started ramping it up. I mean, that win last night over Houston, remember, they just beat Houston. They served Houston. I think that's their first loss of the season with their lineup, with their full starters, their healthy team. I think they were like 18-0 going into that game or something, and I believe that was their first loss of the year. They did it to the Pelicans, who led by as many as 20 at one point. They just beat the Rockets, but not only that, they have won 7 out of 8 games, and Boogie Cousins has been a huge part of that. Him and Davis have been meshing very well, and just in general, they have been playing as a team very good, and it's not like Demarcus Cousins is any small part of that. He is definitely an integral piece of that team. So it's very, very unfortunate, not only because his team is doing good, but because Demarcus Cousins has never played in an NBA playoff game, and at that 6th seed, playing the way that team is playing, there's no reason why they shouldn't have made the playoffs this year if Boogie Cousins is healthy. And look, they can still make the playoffs. I think they can do it. I think they will do it. However, it's going to be harder is number one, but number two, Demarcus Cousins isn't going to play. He's going to be out until the beginning of next season, if not later, because that is a very significant injury and an awful one. I hate this part of the game. I hate when these things happen. The NBA, I can complain about the Kevin Durant thing and the Warriors making this league imbalanced as much as I want. But as a super fan of this league, I'm not going to stop watching it, because even with that, there's still so many interesting stories around the league, so many things that go on that make this NBA league so entertaining. And the Pelicans were becoming, one of these teams that they're starting to get good, and it's really fun because it's awesome to see teams that previously haven't been that great, start to get good, start to play well, start to look like a threat. It just makes the game and the league so much more interesting. And with this injury, it's all of that seemingly is just completely demolished. And you gotta feel for Demarcus Cousins, not just for this, but because of the way his career has panned out. Some people would say that he wasted the first 8-9 years of his career. I think he was in Sacramento for 8 years? That's a long time, and they didn't make the playoffs not once. Their organization was run horribly. They had so many coaching changes. They fired Mike Malone, which was an awful idea. I've said awful a lot of times in this video, but it really does apply to these things. These are not occurrences that I ever want to see to happen to anyone, and we've just had 3 probably season-ending injuries in one span of a day, like 24 hours. It's just been a blur, and it sucks, and it's just a reminder about the dangers of the game. We don't think about it that much. We had a pretty good stretch. I mean, there have been some injuries, like the Dion Waiters injury. Rudy Gobert has been injured and out for a while, a few times. But for the most part, and of course Gordon Hayward, Kawhi Leonard are guys that have to deal with injuries, we haven't had these injuries that derail a team. The Celtics lost Gordon Hayward, and it was awful at the time, but they've really bounced back, and they haven't suffered without him. And hopefully he can get back soon and make that team even better. But that's a team in the Boston Celtics that, despite losing Gordon Hayward, they have flourished. It's up to the Pelicans now to see what they can do. I also didn't mention that Demarcus Cousins is an impending free agent, and the New Orleans Pelicans don't have, a great deal of cap space right now, and losing him to free agency is a legitimate concern for their team, and rightfully so. He's obviously a max player. He starts in the All-Star game, and he was going to start in the All-Star game this year, but, got injured. So it's a big concern for the Pelicans, for Demarcus Cousins. It sucks. It's awful. You can't really get more deep into it than that. I mean, we're just going to have to wait and see how this team plays. Pray that we don't see more injuries like this. This is terrible. I hate this. So let me know what you guys think about the Pelicans, about Demarcus Cousins. Are they going to lose out on him in free agency? Can they still make the playoffs? What do you guys think? Subscribe if you're new. I'm out. Thanks for watching, y'all. Peace.